So welcome to the energetics of parenting. Oops, I'm gonna move this way just a little bit. So I'm really excited for this class because I have so much to share about energy work, about so many things. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about who I am and then my intentions for this class. So my intentions for this webinar, this is my very first webinar, by the way. I'm not sure what constitutes a webinar, but this is a webinar and it's my first free webinar. So thank you for being here with me on this ride. So my intentions for this are to talk about energy and how it affects us as humans and how it affects us as parents, how it affects our kids. And I've got so many cool different modalities and charts and things. So we're going to look at science here. We're going to be looking at the Schumann Resonance. I don't know if you're aware of that. We're going to be looking at vibrations, energy. We are going to be looking at human design, astrology, so all kinds of different energetic ideas and concepts and tools. And then also it's my intention to tell you about my course that's coming up starting on February 10th, which is Mothering by Design, which is all about this subject, but much more in depth. So if you've been in my Mothering by Design class, please feel free to put comments or anything you want to say about any of it as I'm going along in the chat box to share with people, because I love your wisdom and your insights. And this next course, when I launch it and it begins February 10th, this will be my second round teaching it. So I'm really excited because I've already taught it once. So I've got a lot more to add to it and more depth and more insight and just, you know how as you do things, the more you do them, the more you get better at it. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll be talking about that at the end. And then there's a really special, cool deal that I have at the end that I'm gonna share with you guys. So I just wanna share quickly about who I am. So my name's Alisha Nahoku. I'm a mother of two daughters. They are 8 and 11 years old. I'm a single mama. I went through a divorce. It was very brutal. It was a custody study, and so I had to be evaluated and all these different things happened. It's been a journey, but I've been separated for over 7 years now, so I've been on this journey for quite a while. I was actually raised motherless, so I grew up without a mom, which seems funny for somebody to grow up without a mom and then be teaching about mothering. However, it's been a lifelong journey for me to connect with the mother within me, the mother within the earth, the star mothers, the moon, and the divine mother. And so as I went through that journey and really found mother within myself, it gave me my purpose. I remembered my instructions for this lifetime, my mission to bring this mothering energy in and to help us remember who we are, why we're here, and what we're doing. And as mothers, we are really here creating the future generations, right? We are supporting them, raising them, and honoring them. And it's a big time on the earth and lots of transitions happening. So we have an amazing job to do. And the children coming in now are absolutely magical. And we've got new eras of humanity beginning. And so we are here as the stewards to these children. And so when we understand who we are and we understand who they are, it helps us understand. And so I also teach Reiki, and I've been teaching Reiki for about 8 years now. So I took my first class actually with my youngest daughter, was a baby, and I brought her with me. And it's really expanded, and I've really found true love and true sisterhood and true community through teaching Reiki. And it's such a beautiful doorway into so many other modalities. And so if you're ever looking for something that's like, you know that you're waking up to something and you're not quite sure where to go or where to start or what to do with it, Reiki's a really great modality to kind of open that door. Helps you feel and experience yourself as something bigger than just this three-dimensional human. So that's who I am. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If somebody could let me know, maybe in the chat too, if you can hear me okay. Do I sound okay? Am I talking too loud or too quiet or anything? Let me know. I have my headphones here, but then I'd have to take off my super awesome earrings. So I'm trying to avoid that. Okay, yay. Cass says, yep, everything's perfect. All good. Oh, thank you guys. Okay. So I think, let's see, is there anything? Okay, so I also read Akashic Records, which are an energetic library of the soul. I'm pretty damn woo-woo. I absolutely love everything celestial, everything galactic. You can talk to me all day about like soul groups and alien species and ascension, ghosts, spirits, all that stuff. Like nothing is too weird or out there for me. Although this class here is going to be very grounded. We're going to be looking at like science and those things. But me as a person, that's who I am. I'm also a student of ancient Hawaiian Mu traditions. I'm currently studying under my mentor, Keoni, who has really helped me grasp this depth and this connection that I've always had with the Polynesian Islands and Lemuria and the ancient civilizations, our ancient ancestors when we first came to the earth. And then also the Pleiades. The Pleiadian star system is another real big home for me. So those are kind of some of the essences of who I am as a teacher. When I teach Reiki, I teach the Usui Tibetan lineage. So it comes right down from the Usui, although there are a few in the master level, there's 2 Tibetan symbols that have been added to my lineage, and it's absolutely magical. And I've got Reiki actually retreats coming up this year, 2 of them. Some of you are coming. Some of you who are watching now are already signed up, and it's going to be absolutely magic. And so a lot of this stuff that we're talking about here, we definitely dive really, really deep in at my retreats. Like that's where we really experience this stuff. Okay, so enough about me. Let's talk about energy for a moment. So we are all energy. We are nature. And something that indigenous cultures really understood, which has been kind of lost in our world, in our Western civilization, is this fact that we are in fact nature. We are affected. We are affected by the moon. We are affected by the sun. We are affected by the frequencies of the planet. Did you know the planet has frequencies? So we are always being affected by everything. And science knows that we are energy, right? Everything is energy. And we have life force energy. That's what makes us alive. So living things have life force energy. Plants, animals, we are animals, so we have it. And when we lose our life force energy, we're no longer alive, right? That's what makes us alive. So our nervous system runs on electricity. It runs on frequencies. It runs on waves of energy. And different waves create different emotions within our body. So we can look to this and actually see what different frequencies equal what different emotions. And so when I teach Reiki, I really like to talk about energy. I'm going to put that down because I feel like I want to talk with my hands. So with Reiki, with everything, when we have low vibrating emotions, oh shoot, I forgot to put on my lip gloss. When we have low vibrating emotions or thoughts, they can get clogged up in our energy bodies. Let me just do this real quick. I have a friend named Diane Lynn. She makes cosmetics. She made this lip gloss and I love it. And it tastes like vanilla cake. If you're a mom, having good lip gloss is like, okay, that just raised my vibration probably at least like 8 megahertz. Okay, so if you have low vibrating thoughts and emotions, they get clogged up, they get tangled up. And everything starts in our thoughts or our emotions. We have an aura. with many, many layers. And in my Reiki classes, we actually practice feeling, where does this layer end? Where does this layer end? How many layers of a person's aura, how many borders between the layers can we feel before we can't reach that high anymore? And sometimes we even go into the next room on the other side of the wall and we realize we still feel the aura, okay? Ra Uru, who you're gonna see later, he's the one who channeled the human design modality. He says for our energy body to be affected, if you put your arms out straight and you double that length, okay, so do this with me. Put your arms straight out to the side and then double the length of your arm. And imagine there's a big bubble and it goes through the floor, it goes through the ceiling, through the walls. It doesn't matter what's there, if you're in your car, whatever. Anyone who's in that zone is in your energy body, in the inner realms of your aura. So you're really being affected by that energy, whether you realize it or not. So if you're living in an apartment or something and you're sleeping and somebody's on the other side of the wall sleeping on that same wall, like you're literally sleeping in each other's energy body, right? So that's how big we are. Our thoughts are outside our body. So we're taught that they're somewhere in my head, like somewhere in my brain, there's a little hallway or maybe a file cabinet, or maybe it's like a book. I don't know what it looks like, something that my thoughts are in. That's kind of how we like think, but actually in the traditions that I've learned, we actually keep our thoughts outside our body in our aura, and our emotions are in a different external body outside in our aura. And as those slow vibrating thoughts and emotions bind up, they can cause blockages within our physical body. So our physical body is the slowest to respond. So it takes the longest to get sick or get tumors or get a broken ankle or get in an accident or whatever our reality creates to stop us and force us to focus on those slow moving vibrations. But it all starts out here. And so that's why with Reiki, it's really cool, because we bring in divine love, the highest frequency there is, and we bring it in, and high frequency and low frequency cannot exist together. Now, we're going to talk about that a lot because that's really important. You're always aligning to the highest vibration around you. But if it's lower, then you may be lowering yourself, you know? And so people with lower vibrations don't like to do the work to get to a higher vibration. When you have a high vibration, you easily can get down to a low vibration. You know how to go there because you've been there before. It's familiar, it's comfortable. And I guarantee, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, if you think about if you have a sibling, maybe you have a sister or a brother or a mom or someone who knows you well and they know what to say, they say like that one little thing and you're instantly like super pissed and like thinking about them saying that for like hours and hours and just like, mad about it. They're bringing you down to their frequency because they can't exist with you up here. They have to force you down, right? Well, they don't have to. You don't have to go down there, but we do because we're used to it and we get used to it. So I wanted to show you guys a chart. I'm going to share my screen here. I hope this works. And let's see. How do I do it with all of these things in the way? Just a moment. Let me just, oops, that didn't work. Well, my controls are in the way of my thing. Okay, I know what I'll do. Can someone let me know in the chat box that you can see my screen? That would be super helpful. And I am going to just have to shrink this. How do I do this? Okay, well, Okay, you guys can see it, good. So I'm glad you can see it, although right now in this particular moment, it's embarrassing because I can't get my control out of the way so that I can actually, oh, here we go. So I would like to show you this, okay. Here is a chart of emotions and the frequencies, okay? So enlightenment is at 700 megahertz. Shame is the lowest, down here at 20. So you can see we've got shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear. It goes from here all the way up. And it's showing how we feel, right? Contracted, expanded, ultimate consciousness. This is where I'm at. Okay, just kidding. So what happens is these lower frequencies are easier for us to access. We don't have to do as much work, but it's depleting. Now, the Earth has a resonance. It's called the Schumann Resonance. And the Schumann Resonance is actually measuring a sound. So resonance is a sound, and it's a frequency. And a little quick history on that is that they have been measuring this for 150 years, something like that. And it was always measuring at 7.83, okay? So it's basically, there's this, like, the way energy is around the planet, there's like this kind of, it creates this little like concave in the magnetosphere. And then waves come and cause, they say it's caused by lightning, but we don't know. I don't know if that's true, right? They're starting to be able to correlate it to other things, but supposedly science says it's due to lightning. There's this resonance on the Earth that was at 7.83 for like a long, long time. So when we look at the brain waves and where 7.83 is at, it's kind of like in between grief and fear. You know, it's like down in this area. And that's where the planet's been resonating. Well, a couple years ago, it was on Easter Day, I think of maybe 2012, 2013, there was a sudden out of nowhere a spike, and it went up to like 30, and everyone was blown away. Here, I'm going to stop this for a minute. Everyone was blown away because it went from being 7.83 for like 100 years, and then all of a sudden one day spiked up to like 30, I think 32. Everyone tripped out. It went back to 7.83, and then people started watching it more closely. So, and then randomly it started spiking, you know, more and more. And it's been increasing in the spikings happening. And so now the highest I've seen it go is 140. And what happens is when those spikes happen, it affects our nervous systems, it affects our behavior, it affects consciousness. And a lot of people have reactions to it, whether they're physical or emotional. People react when it's spiking. And so there's a way that you can actually chart this that I'd like to show you. And there's two different ways the charts look. And so you may have seen this, you may have seen people talking about it. I'm noticing a lot of people sharing it without actually knowing what they're talking about, because it's something kind of, you know, more new in the world, new age world. But here's what a chart would look like. So this is today. And where it's blue, that's like the 7.83 range. That's where it's like normal. And then you see these spikes here. You see the white spots and the stripes, I mean, and the color stripes. These are where there are peaks. So today it looks like even, is that like an hour or two ago, there's been a spike. Now this chart I think is really hard to actually get much information from, though you'll see people share this one the most because visually it's the easiest. Like you just see there's a color change and you know, oh, something happened. But for me, what I like to do, well, and I've also noticed that on this page, so if you scroll down, they'll tell you, okay, 35. So Schumann Resonance today was at 35, was the peak, which is still like, that's still a spike, right? But I've seen that thing not be super accurate. And for me, because I actually have, let's see, how do I make this? I have a very mathematical brain, actually. For being someone so woo-woo, you'd be surprised. Like, I like numbers, I like charts, I like that kind of stuff. So when I know there's a spike in the Schumann, I want to see it. I want to know exactly what happened. So these are the charts that I look at. And so when you're looking at this, you can see the time gets confusing. So I usually just kind of count backwards. Like I just figure like, okay, here's where we are now. And so like, if I wanted to know when that peak happened, I'd go like, okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 18 to 20, 24 hours ago. So exactly, so yesterday at this time, it was peaking up at 28. So I don't see why that other thing says 35 because there's no 35s here. So that's why I like this chart. And you can see, so each of these lines is a different location. So they measure this in Russia, they measure it in Puerto Rico, and then 2 other places that they measure it. So that's the Schumann resonance. And so there may be times where you feel like you have a hard time sleeping, or your child is acting crazy and you can't figure out why, or you're feeling really emotional out of nowhere, and you can look at the Schumann resonance and you can see, is there a spike? Is there a peak going on? And it's basically squeezing us, purging us. It's causing us to do our work. It's bringing up the stuff, that we've been ignoring, avoiding, right? Okay. Also, I will say, along with the Schumann resonance, another really cool energetic thing to keep an eye on is the solar activity. When there are solar flares, and this is something that's been measured, and the times on Earth, they've measured this for hundreds of years. The times on Earth where the most consciousness happens on the planet is a time where the solar activity is high. So the sun goes in cycles, 11-year cycles of high activity and low activity. When it's high, that means there's more solar flares, solar wind, solar activity coming at us. So when there are solar flares, we feel them and we react to them. And it happens the moment the sun releases that flare. Just last year, science proved this. So they used to say, because it takes 3 days for a solar flare to come out of the sun and reach the Earth. I guess they travel slower than light. I don't understand, right? Like, how could it take 3 days? But 3 to 5 days it takes for the radiation from a solar flare to get to Earth. So when that happens, the magnetosphere of the Earth changes. The Earth knows how to protect itself. Our atmosphere protects itself from the sun. Did you guys know that? If anyone knows this stuff, feel free to share it in the comments, because I love seeing what people know. Like, is this new to you, or is this old news? The Earth's atmosphere changes when the sun releases the flare. So they proved last year that the change on the Earth actually happens not when the wind hits the Earth, but when the actual flare is released from the sun way over here. So this is proving that all that dark matter, all that space actually is something, and there is something connecting the Earth to the sun that we don't see, right? And the Earth is responding, which means we are responding because we are of the Earth. So pay attention to that. One of my favorite, you can go on YouTube, and one of my favorite channels is called Suspicious Observers. And every single day they'll do a report on what's going on with the sun. So that is super fascinating. Okay, so these are just kind of like scientific ways to look at what's going on, figure out, whatever. Now, another thing, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but another thing that's super powerful to look at is the moon. And this is something we really talk about in my Mothering by Design class, is the cycles of the moons, and your intention setting and releasing and living by the moon cycles. And our children especially are very affected by the energies of the moon. The full moon, you'll see, it's not just our children, it's everybody. But if you start to pay attention, you will notice people have less filters, people are just more emotional, and there's more being illuminated during the full moon. Now, the new moon is when we plant our seeds. That's when we have our sister circles or our new moon circles, or our times of intention setting. And so when you understand astrology, it can be super helpful with knowing where to set your intentions. And so I just wanted to show you guys really quickly, because I think it's fun. I'm going to show you my chart, because we just had, last week we had a new moon in Aquarius. And so this is something that I teach you how to do in my course. But what I'm just going to show you really quickly, if I can find my chart. Where did it go? I think this is it. Wait, nope. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I don't expect you to know how to read this, but I teach you how in my class. So the new moon was at 4 degrees Aquarius. On my chart, that's right here. So this is in my 4th house. And so what I can do, and I'll just share, this is like a secret little thing from my class that I'll share it with you guys. I actually created a bunch of cool documents for my class. So we can look and we know the 4th house is about home, family, how you nourish yourself. So when I know that, then I can actually set my intentions around that. I can set my intentions, which I did, like what are my intentions for my home? What are my intentions for my family for this lunar month and also for this next decade and this next 12 Chinese New Years and this whatever the time period I want to set it for. But when you follow the moon cycles, you really, you can set your intentions, of course, around anything every time, but this gives you kind of an area to focus on. And then when I looked, I saw that the full moon is going to be in at 20 degrees Leo. So I can actually look on my chart and I can say, okay, that's my 10th house. So Leo's fire, Leo full moons are about illuminating, like releasing things. And so I can look at my 10th house is around career, public reputation, and personal identity. Ooh, something's going to be illuminated around that for me. Next week in the full moon, something around my career will be illuminated, my public reputation, and my personal identity. So there may be some things coming up. And as I'm releasing, maybe there are things from my past that have to do with those things that I'm ready to release. Maybe there's something in my professional identity. Maybe I used to identify as, a doula, and it's no longer serving me. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to release that part of my identity. I'm no longer a doula. I'm not doing that because I feel like I'll always have some kind of doula energy. And that's something I didn't say in the beginning, but I definitely feel very called by the incoming spirits, the incoming children to this planet to help them make their way. And so that kind of work is what I'm super passionate about. And that's why I'm teaching this class to all of you, right? That's why I'm helping to bring out the language of energetics, who we are as energy beings, and how that connects to who we are as spirit, and preparing, right, this planet for them. And so along with that, I would love to introduce you to human design, or if you already know human design, then this will be a little refresher. But human design is another modality that's super amazing because it's related to astrology and it's related to the ancient Chinese I Ching system and also the Kabbalah tree of life. And so it's a way that you can look up your chart, just like in astrology. You can look it up for free. So if you just go to Google, free astrology chart, and free human design chart. Jovian Archives is a great option. mybodygraph.com is a great option. And I want to show you a little bit about human design. Now, the first thing I want to show you is a quick little video by Ra Uru Hu. So Ra Uru Hu actually received this information in 1989. It's a super esoteric, freaky, crazy story how he received it. It's something that nobody really talks about, which I'm surprised. I think people want to stay safe in their world because it's very scientific and yet it's very woo-woo. So you can actually watch him telling the story on YouTube of how he received this information. It was 8 days and 8 nights of this crazy experience that he had. But what is really awesome about this is that he actually received all this information about these particles called neutrinos. And they come from space. And at the time, science said, no, that's just light that you're seeing. It does not have any substance. But Ra Uru Hu had all this information about it not being light. It's actually particles that that travel through density. Like these neutrinos can travel through a steel wall that's a mile wide and they can still get through it. So they come through us, they come through the planets. And as they're traveling through space, through the galaxy, through the solar systems, past the suns, they're coming from the suns, and actually Jupiter releases neutrinos as well. And so our planet, most of the neutrinos we receive are from Jupiter and from our sun and from our central sun, but they pick up information. Every neutrino that passes through your body, through you, is picking up information about you. Every planet they go through, every star they go through, they bring information and they're passing it on. And there's so many of them, we just don't even see it because we're like surrounded. And science, when Ra-Uru-Hu was bringing this information, was like, no, that's not true. And then 10 years later, in 1999, they actually discovered this. They proved him right. So the fact that he's right is profound because it gives a lot more foundation into his system of energy teaching that we use. Another thing that's one of my favorite parts about human design that nobody really talks about is he talks about how, and this is something that has to do with parenting, because if you think of yourself and you think about your kids, so before Uranus, before the planet of Uranus was discovered, humanity had an average lifespan of 35 years old. So this was just back in like 1791. So in 1791, 35 was the average age of humans. So that meant when you were like 15 was your half year. You were halfway through your life. So at 15 years old, you became an adult, you had babies, you got married, or whatever the traditions were. Well, I guess, yeah, people got married in the 1700s, right? And so that's how life was. And then during the time of Uranus discovery, we moved from, so 35 years is how long it takes for Saturn to go around the Earth, I believe, or the sun. And then Uranus takes 80 years. So when Uranus was discovered, suddenly humans started living to be 80. So we like almost tripled our lifespan. Isn't that interesting? I didn't even believe this. So I looked it up because I was like, no way did we only live to be 35 back in the 1700s. It's true, guys. Check it out. It's crazy. So what happens is now, for those of you who have turned 40, if any of you have, besides me, an old lady over here, when you turn 40, you're actually hitting your midlife now. That's the average midlife. So it went from 15 years old to 40 years old. And so there is a crisis. Ra-Uru-Hu talks about this crisis when we turn 15. He says it's the biggest crisis we go through in life because we biologically feel like we are an adult, that we should be procreating, we should be out working, we should be out in the world, we should be independent, all of those things. And yet our society sees a 15-year-old as a child, right? Like you can't even drive yet. And it's this internal kind of like confusion that happens. And now it's very validating for me because turning 40 is when we actually become an adult now. And our society doesn't see that either, right? Like we turn an adult at 18 or 21, or I don't know. I'd be really curious if any of you want to share in the comments, like, what age were you when you felt like you became an adult? I'd be so curious to know. I feel like I always felt like I'm never going to be an adult. And then something happened when I was 40 and it kind of clicked. And so, Cass is still not feeling like an adult. Well, you're not 40 yet. So Mandy says 30. So something really profound I felt internally happened at 40. And now I understand why. So that is fascinating to me. And when our kids turn 15, I think it's really fascinating to think about that because we see, like in the Waldorf tradition, when they turn, there's the 9-year change. There's these certain cycles, but I haven't really heard of the 15-year-old like crisis, right? Nicole says, I still don't feel like an adult either, but at 31, I feel more like an adult than I ever have. Yeah. I remember feeling like that. And something happened when I turned 40 where I was like, I'm an adult now. It's pretty fascinating to think about that. And I don't know what the relationship is with the length of the planet going around the sun and that having to do with our lifespan, but it's related. Isn't that fascinating? Okay, so Ra Uruhu, I'm going to let him use his words to describe. I want to share this short little video. I'm just going to show a couple minutes of it, because he really, you know, like, he did this for the kids. And that's what he says. And it's super fascinating to me. So actually, before I do that, let me get it set up. And then what I want to say is that I think it's really great, before I move into Ra Uruhu, just think about yourself as a mother, you know, like, who are you as a mother? And we do a lot of this work in my Mothering by Design course. We dive really deep into this because what does that word mean? We all have a different meaning for it, for the word mother. So we think about our own mother, or we think about ourselves as mother, or we think about the divine mother, or we think about like some other mother who, the brother from another mother. And so it's like a really loaded word. But when we really dive in and think like, who are you? And we really talk about in my course, like, we have these soul contracts, we have these soul journeys together. And I believe we choose our mom, right? So many of us believe that, like, you come into this incarnation having chosen your mother for purposes that maybe take a lifetime to figure out, but for reasons. And so that is work that we really do. And then when we think about that, like, how do you grow as a person because of the mother that you came in with? And then who are you as a mother? And then really, like, what is our job as a mother? And I remember, you know, like, the most profound awakening moment in my life was the very first time I met my very first daughter's eyes, right? Like, she was born, I saw her, and then everything changes from that moment. It, like, nothing ever, you cannot go back from that, ever. But what happens is, as we're living and going through life and they're getting older and we're getting tired and these things happen, and once we are changed, we get a little jaded, we forget, we take things for granted. And so another part of my course is really about, you know, like, remembering, like, what does it mean to actually be stewarding a human into the future, and to be a mother and to be a guardian of their life? And how do we take care of ourselves? Because when we understand ourselves and when we can take care of ourselves, that's where we really can take care of somebody else. And we've been in a culture of depletion and disconnection and distortion, and we've forgotten how to take care of ourselves and each other and our children. And so Ra Uru did this. He brought this information in for the children. And so I just want to share, because I think it's cool to hear him talk about it. So go ahead and sit back for just a moment, and I'll introduce you to I call him my twin flame. He's kind of a weirdo, but I'm in love with him. So here's Ra Uruhu.
It has really been a pleasure for me. It is, it's something that I'm aware of, that there are human beings that are grateful for the information and for its impact on their life. In fact, the thing that's always touched me the most and has really been the cornerstone of my work is my work with mothers, and particularly with mothers. The vast majority, about well over 75% of the human design market is female, and mothers are always the guardians of the future. It's what they are. Most human beings, the most fundamental things that they're going to learn in this life, they're going to learn from their mother. And the first true human bond is that bond with the mother. You can't change the world, but you can change the way in which the world is educated. And you can only do that through mothers. So it's been one of the things that's really been so impressive for me over the years is the impact that the knowledge has had, not simply on the lives of the adults that I'm dealing with, but the way in which that's translated into their relationship with their families and with their children. I mean, I know this myself. It's an extraordinary thing to understand the nature of your child's design. It just is. It allows you to be free of all of the uncertainties and concerns that arise out of what it is to be a parent and the responsibility for another human being. Understanding the nature of a child also means that there is an incredible privilege that you can offer them. That is, you can offer them an environment in which they can grow up as themselves. This is something that is so deeply rare, and it is really what the knowledge is for. This knowledge is for children. I mean, unfortunately, you can't just get it directly to the children. You have to get it to the adults. And it is only through the adults that you can really impact them, for them, so that they can be raised correctly, that they can really live the full potential of what it is to be a nine-centered being. In understanding your children, you understand many, many things. You know, you get to see what, in essence, is the way for them, how to deal with them, how to enrich their process, how to make them feel better about the nature of who they are, and ultimately, something that's very special. It is about respect. You know, this is probably the most profound aspect of what it is to be a parent and be aware of your child's design, is the opportunity to respect their nature, not to try to condition them to be something that they are not, and to be there to accept them for what they are, precisely what they are, without that being a good or a bad, because in fact, it is simply a uniqueness, you know, embracing that uniqueness in your child. Human design provides many, many things that can be of enormous value in parenting. Not just simply understanding your child's design and how to treat them according to their type and their definition, understand their conditioning, but also the way in which to raise them in terms of nourishment. The right nourishment for your child is something that's so extraordinarily important for their development as a being. All of these things are possible through awareness. It takes the awareness of the parent. And in the work that I do, perhaps nothing else is as significant as working with those that have children, because it's through them that we have a potential for a truly different generation emerging on this plane.
Yay! Did you guys love Ra Urahu? So let's talk about human design for a second. This is something we really dive in deep in my course. And one of my friends recently, actually a few of my friends now, I've been doing readings for a while, so just so you know that, I offer human design readings for $111, and I'm doing relationship readings now for $179 until Valentine's Day, and then they're going to go up. But when you understand who you are at an energetic level, and who your child is, and how the two of you come together and affect each other, it really changes everything. And we have been conditioned in our culture, in our society, in our world to really be one type of a person, right? We don't talk about energy. We don't talk about the ways that different people have different ways of processing energy and of being in this world and of experiencing this world. And human design gives us a real concrete way to look at that. And because of my like math brain, because of my design, really, I love translating confusing things into something that's understandable for people. And so this is one of my gifts, I feel. And so that's why I love human design so much. And so today I want to just show you guys a little bit of like, what does a chart look like, and talk a little bit about it. So there's 5 different types in human design, and each type has its own way of existing in the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you a little bit about me, and I'm going to show you my chart, and then I'm going to show you my children's charts, just to give you an idea of like what kind of things I look at when I'm looking at charts. And then we'll talk more about kind of like how this works. So let me just share my page here. Let me see, what do I want to share? Desktop. Okay. So first thing I'm going to show you is my chart, which is here. Okay. So here's what a human design chart looks like. I hope you all can see this. So this is the Jovian Archive one. So there's lots of information here. My type is really, there's five types. So I'm a generator. I have a triple split definition. My profile is a 2-4. I'm an emotional authority. When I'm not aligned with myself, frustration is the emotion that I feel. And my strategy is to wait to respond. And then my incarnation cross is a right angle cross of planning. And then here's my chart. So when we look at a chart, there's 9 centers, and everybody has the same 9 centers, and we all have the same channels, which are these lines that are connecting each center. But we each have different definition in our chart. So different things are colored in. You see on me, I just have these 2 open. That means something about me. Now, each of these arrows means something, of course, and then each of this relates to astrology, but it also relates to the gates and what is defined and what isn't. So this is the sun, the earth, the moon, the north node, the south node, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Pluto's down here, so that's Saturn, I think, Uranus. And so I can go, like in astrology, my sun is Sagittarius. In human design, my conscious sun is gate 9.2 and my unconscious sun is gate 40. And each of those gates means something, okay? So there is endless information to gather from this chart. And when I do readings, I do a 30-minute reading and I just cover the basics because we can only handle so much at a time. And then if someone wants to get another reading once they've really processed and like started to practice living out what they learned from the first reading, then we do more, right? But really, there's so much, and it's all about deconditioning ourselves. So one of the most profound, for me, one of the most profound things when I learned human design is this profile. I have a 2-4. This 2 is my the 2 is my conscious and the 4 is my subconscious. Now, a 2 is the hermit. So basically this gave me permission to be who I am because I am a hermit. The hermit doesn't like to leave their house all the time. The hermit doesn't like somebody telling them what to do. The hermit is, Rahu says they're in their house, the windows are open, the curtains are open, but they're in their house walking around naked, dancing around, doing their own thing, and don't even know that anyone's looking, but people are looking at them. People are curious. I have gifts and I have abilities or beauties that I don't see. Like I can't see my own gifts. They have to be reflected to me from others. Other people have to show me or tell me for me to understand that I have, that I have certain gifts or abilities or beauties or things like that. So that's part of like the 2. And then the 4 is about, I'm an opportunist. So that means my opportunities come from my community. And that makes a lot of sense. I host sister circles. I teach classes and groups. I bring communities together. And everyone that I work with has come to me through some kind of a connection through community. So that alone has really given me a lot of permission to be who I am. And this hermit thing, especially because we're real programmed that it's not good to be a hermit, that it's not good to be in your house, right? You're supposed to be out working 9 to 5, 40 hours, slaving to the man, like get out of your house and go get to work. And this is telling me that's not what I'm designed to do. Another thing that's powerful for me is my emotional authority, because we all process emotions different, but I have an emotional authority, which means I have emotional waves. And this has a lot to do with how I make decisions. So because I'm an emotional authority, I'm never ever 100% positive of any choice I make. Like I never am really sure of anything. And when I'm making a big decision, I need to wait until I'm in a neutral emotional place. If I make a decision when I'm really happy or really sad, it's probably not going to last, like that decision isn't going to be the best decision for me. And this was super powerful I just did a relationship reading for somebody here. And for her, it meant everything because she has been married for over 10 years. And she was like, oh my gosh, I realized that whenever she's like, I guess I subconsciously know this about my husband. And so I wait until he's in a really good mood to ask him something, because I know that he's way more likely to say yes if he's in a good mood than a bad mood. So he will then agree to do something, and then he comes back down to a neutral place and he doesn't want to do it anymore. He changes his mind. So she was like, using that wave to her advantage, but in the end, it was biting her in the butt. And knowing this and hearing the words to it and seeing it in the way that I explain it through the chart helped her understand that. So now when she wants to get have her husband make a decision, she doesn't ask him when he's in an emotional high. She waits until he gets to a neutral place, and then she asks him to make a decision. So do you see how these kind of things can be really helpful and important in like real world, real life? So there are other people who have a splenic authority or a sacral authority, and then they just know right away, oh, I know what I want. It's a yes, it's a no, doesn't matter. I don't care. I know, I'm 100% sure, yes, no. I wish I knew how that felt. I've never felt that way about anything. I don't have the capacity to feel that way because that's not my design. But knowing that if it's my child's design, or if I did have that and my child had an emotional authority and I'm like, God, why can't you ever make a decision? Like, why don't you just tell me what you want for dinner? Why can't you just like decide what pair of shoes you're going to wear to school? It's like we get frustrated with our kids for not making decisions, but if we understand why and how, that makes a huge difference. Now, another thing with the decision making, and let me just say, decision making is like one of like 1,000 different things on the chart, right? But this is like a big, for me, it's a really helpful thing, and it's something that we look at when there's a difference in these different places in a chart between like a mom and kids or a relationship. Another thing when it comes to the decision making, shoot, where did it go? Okay. I also am a triple split. So what that means is, of these defined centers here, there's 3 different places where they're connected, but they're not all connected. So you can see like this is my throat center is connected here to my spleen, but then that's not connected to anything else, and neither is my throat. But then here's my G center, my identity center is connected to my sacral, is connected to my root. But none of them are connected to anything else. But then here, this is my solar plexus, my emotional center is connected to my heart. So, but they're not connected. So there's 3 different places in my chart, okay? So that means I'm split like literally into 3 different kind of identities. So when I make a decision, I have to like wait for this one to talk to this one to talk to that one and everything to decide, and then I know. It takes me a long time. So I literally am the slowest person to make decisions that I feel good about. But now that I know that, I learn. So part of my deconditioning process is when somebody asks me if I want to do something or if I want something, then I say, I need to sleep on it. I need time to think about it. I need to think about it, because often and throughout my entire life, I've been forced to make decisions. Do you want to come over on Friday? Do you want to have a play date? Can we go to get cereal? Do you want this? Do you want that? And if I don't know, I feel pressured, like I'm supposed to know right now, and I need time. So now it's as simple as me saying, oh, I need to sleep on it. I need time. So there are people who are one of the types are reflectors, which I have a new reflector client, and she's on here right now. Hi, love. So reflectors actually need an entire moon cycle to make a decision, an entire moon cycle. And the universe is always bringing us what we need. We all have different auras. Every type has a different aura. So me as a generator, I have an all-encompassing aura, and my aura is always bringing everything I need into me. It's a big magnet. So as long as there's not stuff that's not lighting me up, clogging the way, everything I need comes to me, and it just comes right to me. So I don't have to worry about that. And if I need time to make a decision and then that choice is gone and I lose an opportunity, I can be sure that that opportunity wasn't for me, because I'm not meant to rush into things. And it's the same with the reflectors who need a moon cycle. If they need a moon cycle, they need a moon cycle. And if they don't make a decision and they miss out on an opportunity, it's because that opportunity wasn't in their highest good anyway. So these kind of things are so fascinating. Okay, let me read some of the comments and then we'll talk a little bit more here. Oh my gosh, and it's already been an hour. So, okay. So Nicole, let's see, we talked about that. Emily, I have recently been observing this in myself. Often agree to something when I'm feeling up. Then when the time comes to follow through, I really don't want to. Learning to wait for neutral to respond. So Emily, you're an emotional authority, right? Emily's in my Mothering by Design class, so she'll be in there. And I want to let you guys know, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Mothering by Design. And with that class, it's so beautiful because we actually, one of the modules is we come in and we look at your whole family. Like I do it like this, but we pull up the charts for your whole family and we look at how everyone's responding to each other and what's happening. And I'll show you a little bit more about that in a moment. But we create bonds and we support each other and we learn through witnessing each other, and it's really vulnerable, and we're all moms, and there's like a space to actually, you know, be vulnerable with your mothering and what's happening. And there's a continuation from the program. So once the class is gone, there's actually an opportunity to keep going. We do new moon circles and we do full moon circles once a month. And then we have the container still there to share with each other and support each other. And you can ask questions and we look at your charts and all of that. Nicole, when the line only goes part of the way towards the center in the chart, what does that mean? Okay, so let's look at that. So that's called a hanging gate. And this is something I teach really thoroughly in the class, Mothering by Design. But each of these lines that are connecting are called channels. And then at each end of a channel is a gate. So like right here, this is a hanging gate 59. So I have this, but I don't have this one, right? So here's what's really cool. And here's why it matters. And here's why Mothering by Design is so awesome, is that, let me see, where is Emmylou? Okay, so look at this. This is cool. Actually, I'll pull up Emmylou and Adelaide. Oh wait, I'll just pull up Emmylou and me. Okay. So when you look at these together, you can see they're very different. So my daughter, Emmylou, my youngest daughter here, she's a projector. Do you see how open her chart is compared to mine? Can you guys see that? Okay. So the only two defined energy centers she has is her root center and her splenic center. But what happens is, let me find a good example. Okay. So do you see right here on her, she's got 26 defined. See that there? But this is open. 44 is open. Now, when you look at my chart, do you see how I have 44 is defined, but 26 is open, right? When Emmylou and I are in each other's energy, so we're within like 2 arms length of each other, our energy connects, and this channel becomes completely defined because my half and her half zinc together. Is that a word? And then when that happens, that defines her heart center here, because in order for a center to be defined, colored in, it needs to be connected fully with a whole channel to another center. So once this channel defines, it defines her heart. Now you'll see, I also have this 40-37. I have that whole channel on mine. She's got it open, but when she gets next to me, my energy defines it for her. So this also gets defined for her, right? And then here, she's only got half. Let me see, can I zoom in here a little more? She's got gate 52, but not gate 9. I've got the whole thing. So we get together, that defines that. It defines her sacral. She's a projector. Now, let me tell you a little bit about projectors. just really quick. Projectors don't have an energy center in their sacral is not defined, so they're not producing energy. Generators, which I am, I'm generating energy for the planet. 30% of the population are generators. We're the ones who generate the energy for the planet, and we do that by doing what lights us up. When we're doing something that lights us up, like right now, teaching you guys this and talking about it lights me up so much. My energy is just like exploding and feeding to the planet and feeding to the earth. But what that means is, like, when I go hiking, if I have Emmy Lou with me, she's depending on my energy to carry her, but she needs to rest. Projectors are not meant to be 8-hour-a-day workers. They're meant to be like 4-hour-a-day, maybe max. They're meant to take a lot of naps. They're meant to rest. Their aura is encompassing and like focuses on one person at a time. So they're not bringing in the whole crowd. They're just like one at a time, one at a time. They can see in a way that everyone else can't see. There's so many things, and we learn and talk about all of this in my course, but it's fascinating. And so I actually oftentimes will now plan hiking trips and really physical trips with my older daughter, Adelaide, because she's a manifesting generator. She's got all the energy, but not with Emmy Lou, because we end up having to drag her, carry her. She gets tired. Well, she's not meant to be hiking for like 3 miles down a canyon. She's just not designed that way. And now that I know that, I can honor that in her. So I hope that makes sense. Hi, Misty. Okay, yeah, I'm a projector too. Mine is so open. So true. Had to quit my 9-to-5 job due to my autoimmune disease, but I'm also always so tired. Yeah, so Nicole, I'd also be curious, your spleen, maybe, I can't remember if your spleen is defined or not, but when we look at the chart, every single one of these centers means something, right? So this is our energy center. Emmy Lou has a splenic authority. So she doesn't have that emotional wave, but what she has is she absorbs and amplifies the emotions of those around her. So if I'm ever wondering how I'm feeling, I just look to her and she's projecting it right at me in an amplified state. If I'm happy, she's really freaking happy. And if I'm pissed, she is like pissed. It's so fascinating. She's absorbing and amplifying it all. With a very open chart like this, it's really important that you have space alone, away from other people, to let that energy flow out of your body and to release it. Projectors are not meant to sleep with others. They're meant to sleep alone. Now, Emmy Lou still does sleep in my bed often, but what I'll do is I'll kind of lay there with her while she falls asleep, and then I will go and give her space for her body to just rest and release its energy, and then I'll go back and sleep with her. But it's really important for all of us to have that space at some point to like figure out and release, because anywhere you're open, you're absorbing energy from the world. And if you never get a chance to just like release all that, then how do you know who you are? And so these are tools that we use in our parenting that can be super helpful. And now we can look at emotional authority, splenic authority. So we can look at the decision making. We can look at the head and the ajna centers in the head to see about how thought processes and thinking happens. So some people have really open, dynamic channeling, like all over the place thoughts, get stuck in their head, overthinking. Other people are defined and they think in a really logical pattern, like specific way. We can look at the G center. That's the identity center. Some people have it defined and they have a very strong identity of who they are. Other people have it open. They don't really have an exact identity. It depends on who they're around. It depends on, they're more like a chameleon. A lot of spiritual teachers will have that open because they can really become who other people want them to see. So, but that's also like, if we look at the profiles of 5. So mine was a 2-4. There's 5s. Those are kind of like the ones people will project onto them who they think they are rather than who they really are. They project like who they need them to be. So there's so many different profiles, and there's so many different things to this, you guys, but it's like a rabbit hole that is so fun. So I do readings, human design readings, for $111, and I do relationship readings where I'll take both of your charts together, tell you about both of them, and then how they come together and what's being activated and what's happening. That one's $177 until Valentine's Day, and then that's going up to $222. And the biggest thing I want to talk about is my Mothering by Design course. It starts on February 10th. It's $555. And it's got 5 modules. So it's a 5-week long course with an option to continue on. And if you decide to join into the class before February 3rd, so that's 1 week before we begin, then you get a free chart reading for you included in the rate. And that is actually a really beautiful, it's $111 value, and it's a really beautiful way to come into that class because you come in really understanding yourself and where you're coming from and like the basics of the chart before you even get into the course. So if anyone's interested, I definitely recommend that you sign up before February 3rd because I'm going to need that week to do all of the readings for anyone who decides to sign up for that. But the doors to that are open now. I've got payment plans available, so you can just simply send me a message. Let me know what you need, if you want to pay in full, if you need to set up a payment plan, and then I get you set up in there. And we talk about the basics of reading an astrology chart. So we learn the houses, we learn the signs, and we learn how to look at where the moon is going to be. We talk about masculine and feminine energy. Do you know about mothering? Do you know if mothering is masculine or feminine? That really affected and like was a huge aha for a lot of my students in the last round. Just like what it changed their relationships with their partners, changed their relationships with themselves. So we talk about, there's a module about that, and then we dive into human design, and there's actually 2 parts to that class because I kind of teach the basics, and then the second round is us really diving in and looking at your family and how it all goes together, and we get to watch that with each other to get a good feel of like seeing other people who aren't our family to help us learn more about reading the chart. Let me think what else. So there's astrology, human design, energetics, celebration, and then really deep like work around the mother wound, mother identity, like who you are as a mother, what it means to be a mother, what the triggers are, who you want to be as a mother, what it means, you and your children. We talk about soul family, soul contracts, lessons. It's really pretty profound and pretty emotional and pretty deep. If you guys know me, if you've worked with me, you know, like I'm not afraid to cry when I'm teaching. I'm not afraid to bring out your emotions. And I'm really, really proud of this. I just have to say, like, I'm so proud to be teaching this because I feel proud of my children. I feel proud of my relationship that I have with them. I feel really proud with who they are in the world. I feel really confident with who they are in the world. And I feel like we're always learning, we're always experiencing and experimenting, and we're all deconditioning, right? Like we are always deconditioning ourselves. And it's a new age and it's a new time. And we really are here to like prepare the planet for all that's to come. And there's no more, living in the delusions and illusions. There's no more time to just be raising kids in the ways that we were raised and expecting the same thing over and over and over again. We have to really be like Ra-Uru Hu said, like respecting them and who they really are. And the fun thing about this is that like whether you believe it or not, it gives you something to think about and it gives you something to experiment with. Everyone I've ever done a reading for is mind blown. Like they're just like, wow, it's so affirming. Like it's things that you know that maybe you just didn't have the words to put with it. And that's like, I do soul realignment readings too with the Akashic records. And that's the same, I get the same responses with that. Like, oh my gosh, I just always didn't have the words to explain. And so I love bringing the language in to help us have the language, right? Because our children are born with these gifts, these purposes, these abilities. We are all coming back online and getting our abilities and awakening. Our DNA is awakening. Our crystalline bodies are coming alive. But our kids are coming in without the baggage that we had, and they're already there. They're already awake. And so if we can just be here holding that space, using the language that we use, and talking about all of this in just a way that's not so just so mysterious, like talking about the auras, talking about the energy bodies, talking about needing space to let other people's emotions leave your body. It's so powerful, and it does such good for them. So let me read through the chat here and share. And if anyone, as I'm doing this, has any last questions or comments, or if you want to say anything about my class, or if you've had a reading with me, anything you want to share, please feel free. So let me see, Nicole, my projector, only top 3 gates are defined. Oh yeah, so I was gonna say, Nicole, your spleen has to do with health. And people with an open spleen will often pick up health stuff, like not feel their body isn't, illnesses are easier to catch with that spleen open. So really doing work around that and around deconditioning, the spleen is really important. So that would be something interesting to look into for you. Nicole, it's so funny. I can be alone all day and I'm thrilled. My husband comes home and I think he restores my energy. Yeah, so you're home as a projector, just kind of like doing whatever. And then he comes home. If he's a generator, he's literally restoring your energy, right? And that's how, even like my friends who are projectors, they know they need to go like to a coffee shop or the library or somewhere where there's other people to do their work, like to do something. Where me, I'm a generator. I'm just here in my house in my little hermit, like all the energy I need. I don't need anyone else's energy in that way. Okay, let me see. Do you have to know what time you were born to have an accurate human design reading? Thank you for asking this, Cassie, because you do. It's really important, like to the minute can make a difference in your chart. And that's really hard because, like for instance, one of my clients' partner was born in a remote village in Africa where they don't, like nobody wrote down what time or even what day maybe. So it's really tricky. But once you start learning human design, there's certain things that you can kind of like, if you had an idea, you could kind of start to guess the time and play with it. And like, you would know, you might not have all the gates or the channels exactly right. There's also, I guess there are some astrologers who have ways of figuring it out. So that's my kitty back there. So there are ways, but it does require, to know an exact specific time of birth. Some people have had luck with, if you were born in a hospital, sometimes you can call the hospital or the state records, or even now like Ancestry and all those websites, they like have the records. So you can sometimes find times of birth that way. Emily highly recommended the Mothering by Design course. I learned so much about my kids and myself. Yay, thank you, Emily. Yeah, and Emily was there for round 1. So I was still learning, still like trying to make this all into something that's understandable. So just know that like in that course, it's not quite so fast. I'm here at an hour and 15 minutes now, and I was, I'm sorry, I've been talking super fast and just trying to cram a lot of information in, but we do move a little bit slower in the course and like more, we go way, way, way more deeper. Michelle Peterson, I miss you, Michelle. This is such valuable work. I'm so happy you are doing this. I'll be reaching out for a partnership chart. I'm sending this info to all open-minded mothers I know. Love and hugs. You're such a beautiful, radiant soul. Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. I was just on a call with my mentor earlier this morning, and radiance, I decided that's my word for 2020 is sensuality or sensual, but I think radiance is another one. Like I'm really working on my radiance. So thank you for that. Emily, the moon circles are so special to be able to share intentions and celebrate each other's very, very empowering. Yes, I love our circles, Emily. Yeah, so if you're in Mothering by Design, part of that course is one moon circle and one new moon circle, or one full moon and one new moon circle. So 2 circles plus the courses. And so we get together on Zoom and we set our intentions and we do releasing ceremony, and it's really, really powerful. So that's another part of the class that I forgot to mention. Thank you for reminding me about that, Emily. It is very special. My goal, my intention is really to give us a place to be connecting at the most vulnerable, deep, beautiful levels, and creating sisterhood and creating unity and motherhood and creating a place for us to really explore these concepts and really not feel judged and feel like we can just explore ourselves, because mothering is such a journey in our own healing, right? Like there's nothing that pushes you into your own work more than being a mom. And so I just am so honored to be creating a place for us to do that. And Michelle is a manifester. You are, Michelle. Wow. So actually, manifestors, I use all of this in my business coaching also, which I haven't mentioned, but I am also a business coach and I do one-on-one coaching, and it's freaking mind-blowing. And I use this, and I just, I do have a manifesting client as well, a manifester. And for you guys, manifester, your aura is actually repelling. It repels people. And so your strategy is to, what is the word? Like you have to tell people what you're going to do, right? You have to say it, inform before you do, let people know what you're doing. So informing everyone in your life, whether it's your partner, your kids, your community, your boss, whoever, like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. Your clients too, I'm going to do this. So for manifestors, really dripping out information, like in 5 days, we're going to have a surprise. And then there's like techniques in business around human design as well. And manifestors, you're here to really create this world. You get to go out there and initiate whatever you want. So manifestors come up with the ideas and they start projects, and then us, the generators and mani-gens, come in and carry the energy of it and carry it through. So you're not really meant to have to carry anything through. You're just meant to go and initiate it. And you know what's fascinating? Here's one more fascinating thing about human design. As technology has grown and expanded, there's more and more projectors and there's less manifestors, because before the internet we needed a lot of manifestors all over the place. They're like the kings and the queens and the inventors, and manifestors are out there creating the world. But now that we have technology and the internet, we don't need so many manifestors because we're so connected. So now there's less manifestors being born. Isn't that fascinating? Like the way that we are evolving, and that human design is like has a way of explaining that evolution is so fascinating. Misty says, I learned so much just now. I cannot wait for the Mothering by Design. Yay! Yes, Misty, you'll love it. Yeah, we've got, I think, 4 or 5 in there right now. So it's going to be an amazing group of women for whoever's going to be in there. We've got 5. I think I've got 5 in there right now, 4 so far. But just let me know if you're interested in that. We start February 10th. It's going to be like life-changing, amazing, powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle. I love you guys. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch me and be here and support me. It means the world. Like, it really, really means the world to me. And I'm so honored to do this. And please, yeah, and you too, Nicole, even not having kids yet or whatever, like this information is so helpful, even when we think about our partners or our family dynamics, all of it. It helps us understand ourselves better. So please reach out if you'd like a human design reading. They're $111, and it basically, I send you a copy of your chart. I usually send it through Instagram or your email, a chart, and then a 30-minute recorded reading of me doing the reading. The relationship readings are $177 until Valentine's Day. So then I send both charts. And if it's a Valentine's Day gift, I'm thinking of actually designing like a really sweet, cute little design of your two charts together. And then my coaching packages, contact me about that. That is life-changing and amazing. And Mothering by Design, we start February 10th. It's $555. And I'm just so excited. I love you all so much. Cass, this is seriously amazing. I'm so excited about this. Can't wait to learn. Yay, yay. So true, even without kids yet. Yes, thank you all so much. And I just want to put one more plug in for my retreats also. I have a beginner's Reiki retreat, April 20th through 23rd. I believe it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I think that one's the 20th through 23rd. It's in the magical Coast Range of Oregon. Both of these retreats are in the same place, in this magical, just beautiful, clean, new place with lots of land. It's on the river. It's super beautiful. That I have early bird rates that end February 1st. So I've got really amazing payment plans for those, because I don't want money to be the reason you don't come to the retreat. In the retreats, we really talk about all this stuff like really deep, and we do a lot of healing, and it's all just so much Reiki. And now I'm going to be really including a lot of the other stuff that I'm learning with my new mentor. We're studying. He's helping me remember Lemuria. He's helping me remember the ancient land of Mu, Lemuria, from where we first came. And I'm learning healing techniques, and I'm healing meditations and mudras, and all things that I'm going to be including in my retreats. I mean, I am just embodying it and bringing it all in. So please, if you're interested, reach out to me, and we can make whatever we need to make it work. And I'm doing the master level training in August. So technically, if you wanted to have 2020 be a master Reiki year, you could come to both retreats, because you need only a certain amount of time between level 2 and master level. But my master retreat is where, like, that is the hugest, most powerful, profound thing that I teach, that I do. It's 3 nights. It's August 23rd through 26th. It'll be summertime. We're going to be outside a lot under the stars. There's a soaking pool there. It's just absolutely magic. And I cannot believe the amazing women, some of you guys on here, are coming to one or the other of those retreats. And I'm just so honored and excited for that. So let me know, reach out, spread the word. If you know anyone that is going, that you think this would be helpful, I'll be emailing you out a link to the replay. Please feel free to share it. And thank you so much for being here. I'm just like so honored. So big, big love. Big, big mama love. I'll see you soon.